Hey, everyone. Welcome to the VO Boss Podcast and the Boss Money Talk series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I have the lovely Danielle Famble with me today.
Hey, we're back.
Hey, Danielle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Ann?
I'm good. You know, I'll tell you, I'm having a little bit of, social media exhaustion. Maybe specifically in our own industry because this week I've just seen all these posts about, I just booked this gig, or I booked this gig and I can't talk about it. And it's hard sometimes when maybe on your end, if things are slow or, it's hard not to compare sometimes, Danielle.
Yeah, it really is. It's funny because I've intentionally taken a social media hiatus, and it's been the best thing. I was finding myself scrolling and doom scrolling
the VO industry forums.
Exactly, and just seeing all these people that I really love, when we are together for conferences and everything else. I really enjoy being around, everyone from our industry.
Yeah, me as well.
But there is sometimes, it just gets a little too much when you're scrolling on social media and you're seeing all these people talking about themselves and their businesses, and it can creep up on you where you're feeling a little bit of insecurity or comparison to something that someone has either said or not quite said indirectly.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I decided to just cleanse my palate and not go on social media, a specific social media site that really kind of turned into not really going on social media all that often. And it's really been helpful, and it was like a couple weeks, turned into a couple months, turned into almost a year. And no regrets at all.
Well, comparison is the thief of joy,
it really
so they say.
It absolutely is.
And I think that we don't always think about it in so much as we think about, comparing like performance, right? Comparing, she's a better voice actor or, but when you start seeing people posting about jobs that they've booked, it then starts to reflect not only on your performance, but on your business, right? And your financial status as well.
And your confidence.
Exactly. And because I think overall, when we get into this industry and we want to be successful, the measure of success for a lot of people, or the perception of success in voiceover, is the money that you're making, right? And the amount of gigs that you book.
Yeah. And the thing is that, people don't typically come out and just say, I made X amount of dollars in voiceover. Usually it's the things that you create in your mind.
Oh, gosh, yes.
You're thinking, okay, well, this person just talked about this job that they booked or went out and showed.
They booked a national commercial. They must be making, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And that's great. I mean, we should lift up our fellow voice actors when they book, and that's really not what I'm talking about here. It's the things that you make in your mind. You create these things in your mind, this story, this life, this lifestyle that this person may have or not have. You created these stories in your mind, and then that is what, like, for me anyway, that was what was working through my confidence, or making me not feel like I was doing what I needed to do for my business, because I believe that this person is doing more auditions than I am, or more successful than I am. And in my own mind, in my own world, in my own booth, I have become my own enemy by comparing my perception of what someone else is putting out there.
And perception is the key term
that
there,
is
right? Because there's so much behind what we see online. And I know that, we can sound like a broken record saying that over and over and over again. And usually what's out there is all the, I just booked, my next gig, or all the good stuff. And there's not a lot of hard talk about numbers or, what did you make last year? I mean, there's the NAVA survey that goes out that is anonymous, because people don't always necessarily want to admit, right? Yeah. What is the status of their business, of the financial status of their business, because they consider that a measure of their success, right? How much money did you make last year? How much money did you make last month? And that somehow in their minds turns into be this measure of success and worth. and worth. And that is probably one of the most dangerous things that you can do, is because these are perceptions that you're seeing. It's your perception of what you're seeing online. Your assumption that because somebody booked a commercial that, it must have been a national commercial that paid, $100,000, when in fact maybe it paid $2,000, right? And it was only for 13 weeks. And so it was a one-shot deal. And then your agent got 20% of that. And it really ends up being a lot more than what it appears to be online. And that is where I feel that the danger of reading too much into these social posts and then comparing yourself and your businesses to other people is detrimental to your mental health and your business health. I mean, in reality, I say it all the time, mind your own business. And I mean that in a good way, because everyone's businesses are different, right? Everyone's business model is different. I mean, some people, if you're looking at, if somebody's booking, all the time, or it seems like they're booking all the time, maybe they're working full time as a voice actor, and that's what they do. Sometimes there's a lot of people out there that work part-time voiceover, and maybe if they book a gig a month, that's actually really good. So there's so many things that you need to look at.
There are so many things that you will probably never know unless you ask them specifically about each and every booking, or know more about the ins and outs and inner workings of their business. And this is not to say, you shouldn't post about your wins, and you shouldn't let people know, how you're doing and working and everything else. That's not it at all. It's, as the receiver, it's being cautious to not put your perception on what it is that you are seeing, because you're not probably getting the full total picture. Like you were saying, you never know. Like, maybe this person has an agent and or manager that's getting a cut. Maybe this is a job that is a non-union buyout. You don't really know what is in the contract of that particular job, but you're making these assumptions, and really it's just a reflection of how you feel about your own worth, your own voiceover business. And I love what you're saying, mind your own business, because really that can just be fuel to say, okay, I see this person just booked. That means that there is work out there. That means there's work out there to be done. And my next yes is right around the corner. You can use it as evidence that great things are happening for so many people. And so why not you? But really it's about making sure that you are understanding if you are putting your own perception on what it is that you are seeing in social media and how that could have a negative impact on you.
Well, and it can only take like the slightest of comments to really drive that perception a little crazy. It used to be people, they tell the story about Don LaFontaine. Oh, it's a tag and it's a spot and a tag. That kind of thing. The caviar. Well, that's just a spot and a tag. Well, that kind of cavalier sort of like mention about, it's a spot and a tag, can be funny, but also to some people, if they read too much into that, it can be devastating. And a comment on, if you do this coaching, or if you do this, you'll be able to pay for your next conference or your next demo or your next, I was able to pay for my demo after this spot. So that's a lot to read into. And people say, okay, so demos are probably around, I don't know, between $2,000 and $5,000, or depends, are they getting coaching with it, or, are they getting multiple demos, or how many demos? And so you make that, like, the difference between the actual cost and really what, if somebody casually just said, oh, I was able to buy my demo with that, or I was able to go to VO Atlanta with that, right? You don't know, like, how much of VO Atlanta did you get to go to with that? Maybe you paid for one night at the hotel, right? And that helped you to go to VO Atlanta. So you weren't lying, right? But your perception was, oh my God, it paid for the ticket for VO Atlanta, paid for the flight, it paid for the hotel, it paid for.
And you're
making mountains.
You're spinning
Exactly.
your own wheels on something that happened to a person that you don't have the full story.
Exactly.
So what you can do is use that as a bit of evidence of saying, okay, well, this is what's possible. This is what has happened for this. What they said is what is possible and has happened for them. What can I take from that, and how can I learn, and how can I put that into practice in my own life and in my own voiceover business? And really, I mean, for me, it's really just a matter of reminding myself that work is still out there, that people are still working, that your next yes is around the corner, and good things are coming for you. But anything else is just allowing yourself to spin and spin and spin into something great has happened for this person, and that means that I'm not doing enough, or I'm not X, Y, or Z enough. Yeah. Well, it's just not helpful.
I think if you're at the point in your career, right, there's healthy social media. And for you, you said, did you completely go off of social media, Danielle?
No, I didn't completely go off. I mean, I still very much stalk folks on social media. I'm not on it as much. I don't go on Facebook nearly as much. And I use
myself
Instagram
too.
More so than anything else. But I was so focused on seeing what other people were doing and the jobs that they had booked and everything else that it was taking time away from me being in my own business and doing what I needed to do for my own business, that I would just sit in the booth and I would just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I'm truly not really paying attention to what I need to do. And that doesn't mean that I wasn't working. I'm working. I'm a full-time voice actor, but I was putting so much more energy into imagining what other people were doing and saying and booking, because I was in their business, not in mine.
Yeah. And, the other thing, too, is when you go so far as to talk about, what rates to charge, because there's always talk about, that's always like a topic of discussion on the internet about what rates to charge, right? What should we charge? And we touched upon this a little bit in our last episode, about how there are rate guides out there for a purpose. They're meant to just be a guide. And your rate guide, your own personal rate guide, I've always had a personal rate guide, which may be different from the rate guides that are out there. Remember, that's all they are, is they're just guides. They're not exact, like, I must charge this and I must only accept jobs that offer this to me. Because, again, it is your business, and how you run your business and how you gain a profit is entirely up to you. That's part of the challenge. It's part of the entrepreneur in you that allows you the freedom to kind of charge this for one job, and maybe for the next job charge something different.
Right.
And it's the great thing about it, and it's also the scary part about it. Is that we charge different rates. There's never any set rates for pretty much anything I do. I have a guide that I look at and I say, okay, let me base this quote off of this guide, and my client says yes or no. But again, it's my guide, and I've long gone are the times, unless I'm getting a job in some genre or some kind of medium that I've not quoted before, then yes, I go back and I refer to the rate guide. But otherwise, I've got my own.
Yeah. And how often do you hear people talking about their own rate guide on social media? So
never.
That's another thing that you don't really get the full picture of what's going on in someone else's business, in someone else's booth, how someone's running their business. And so if you're comparing yourself, not knowing the full story, not knowing the rates or the usage or the terms, and just kind of making these things up in your mind, you're really you're hurting yourself. And you're not really getting...
Absolutely.
That's an opportunity then for you to learn and get your own rate guide if you don't have one.
Absolutely.
Or ask more questions so that you can do better about minding your own business. But I love what you're saying about, getting out of comparing yourself to other people and their businesses, of what you see or what you perceive on social media.
Especially.
Run your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when people say, well, I booked a job. Okay, so I booked a video game. I booked a character in this. I booked a commercial. I booked this commercial. Here it is. And so there's so many unknowns about that, right? You don't know, how did they book it? Did they book it through an agent that's getting a cut? Did they book it, did a manager, set up that relationship? Was it through that sort of thing? Were they on a roster? One thing I can say is, like, if you're on Pandora or, you know what I mean? If you're on one of those rosters, you typically get paid a certain amount per job. And while that commercial might run nationally, it's on the radio. Or is it on the radio? Is it on television? So you don't always know when somebody says, I just booked a commercial. Is it on the radio? Is it on television? Is it running, like, in what areas? And so you can assume, oh my God, it must be a national commercial that's running for a year, and it's for, Geico. And so therefore it could just be something running locally. You know what I mean? It could be on a radio spot, right? And so the difference in rate that they would have gotten from one to the other is substantial. And so you can't assume that much without knowing details, again, like we talked about before. So just remember that you don't know, like, how they acquired the job typically, unless if they say they booked it through an agent. Know that, did they set the price? Probably not. The agent did. Right. And, the agent took a cut. And so they didn't really have control over what they made. So be cautious about trying to guess, like, what they made. Sometimes agents, and you know this as well as I do, I'll get something and, well, it's a little lower than I wanted, but here's the job. So feel free to audition if you feel that it fits you. Right. So, we don't always, when we're whoever's negotiating, we don't always get what we're completely looking for. But it's then up to us to determine whether or not we're going to audition and take that chance that if we get the job, we've accepted that rate. Well, you don't know that at all if you're looking at it from social media from a standpoint where it wasn't your audition and it's somebody else that booked the gig. Yeah. So be careful about assuming things. There's many things that you don't know that have gone on behind the scenes.
Yeah. And one of the things this comes from my musical theater days. When I first moved to New York, I was really struggling with how to be in a room full of other actors, because you go in and you're in your holding room, and then you go in and one by one you audition, and then you come out. And so there's sort of the, like, in-person angst of what do you do, right? It's social media, but like IRL. Oh yeah, and exactly. That feeling, right? And I remember speaking to a mentor at the time who was like, you can feel whatever you're feeling, and that's totally fine because you're human and the feelings are just feelings. But once you can learn how to really truly be happy for the people who are winning, or for the people who are booking, or for the people who have what it is that you want, once you learn how to truly appreciate for them and be happy for them about what is happening to them, then those things, they start to come to you. And this is sort of like a manifestation thing. But I have found that when I'm able to be truly happy for someone in their success, I have found that more success has been able to come to me because I'm not spending my time and spinning my wheels comparing myself to something that is a perceived thing that's happening for them.
It's a lot of toxic, wasted energy.
Exactly. So when you see what's happening on social media, and maybe actually taking a step back and taking a step away from social media will help you gain that perspective. Absolutely. But then when you can see and truly be happy for your peers, for the people who are booking the things that you'd like to book or perceive to be booking the things that you'd like to book, that's the opportunity for you to really, truly celebrate them and appreciate what is happening for them, because those things come back to you. Yeah. But that is the only time for me where I felt like looking at social media and stopping myself from that spinning of my wheels has really, like, been able to reap rewards for me in my life.
I think really setting, like, a limit of how much you're actually absorbing that social media, because it is.
That's a good point.
I mean, we are running online businesses, so it is necessary for us to be online for a lot of our jobs, and so it's hard not to look at social media, but if you are going to read, let's say, any of the groups or, go through a discussion with comments about, somebody booking or, absolutely celebrate with people who are booking, because a lot of times, these people who are writing about their wins, I'm genuinely happy for them because I know how hard they've worked.
Oh, yeah.
That's where our community being close and loving is a wonderful thing, because when I see somebody that I've known for years and they've booked a role that is kind of like a dream role for them, I am so incredibly happy for them. And I'm not even thinking about what are they making. That is not even entered into my head. Although I may think, oh, that's nice. That's going to keep them busy for a good long time, right? Because that's a successful series or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And so long ago, I don't, it used to be hard for me not to get down on myself. I would never really be angry at people, but I know that some people do get angry, or maybe that is jealousy in its ugly form. They're jealous, and saying, oh, they don't deserve the success. But honestly, yeah, if you can just, find it in your heart to celebrate the wins with your fellow colleagues. I mean, we always say that we're in competition, but we're not. We're not really in competition. We're not in competition. Exactly. And we're not in competition with our businesses either. Mm-hmm. And when people start preaching about rates, and even we talk about rates, like charge what you're worth, right? But I will never really preach to you and say, oh my God, you charged $50 for that job. I would never make somebody feel bad. I would say, here's a rate guide. I want you to understand what you're worth. Right? Mm-hmm. You're worth more than that. Just I want you to know that I think that of you. And I want you to think that of yourself as well. So maybe next time you would consider, making that rate higher. And most of the time people will be grateful for that, right? Mm-hmm. They'll say, yeah, but I'm afraid I won't get the job. Well, here's the deal. Like I said, we talk about the power of no, right? And we've talked about that in our podcast. And I will say to them, well, all it takes is one no, and you won't believe the amount of empowerment it gives you. Mm-hmm. And yeah, don't compare yourself. I have had people, often some of my students, that they're scared to start because they've already compared themselves before they've even gotten into the game. Mm-hmm. They've been reading, the groups, they've been online, they've been hearing things, and they've been attending conferences, and they're scared to start because they feel like everybody else is so much better than them and they're so much more worthy. But in reality, you have to, that is something that you absolutely have to be on board with from the get-go and mind your own business, know your worth, feel confident in your worth. And Danielle and I are going to always be a cheering team for you. I know that for sure.
And just know that, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And so making up, even just trying to fill in the blanks of things that you don't know might be the thing that's stealing your own joy and stealing your time from being able to just start.
Yeah.
So, understand that what you're seeing on social media is only a snapshot in someone's day, a snapshot in someone's life, and you're not getting the full picture. But that means that you need to be wholeheartedly living your own life and being in your own business so that you can be able to fill yourself and fill your soul instead of spinning your wheels, thinking other things about what someone has put on social media.
And remember, if somebody tries to make you feel bad about a rate that you charged, first of all, understand that, number one, we always want you to feel that you're worthy. You're worthy of a rate that is typically put into the rate guides that are out there, right? But if you didn't charge that, then I don't want you to feel horrible, because that's the worst thing. If somebody makes you feel horrible after the fact, I don't believe in that, right? Just understand sometimes, like we spoke about in our past episode, sometimes you can negotiate a rate that's below, right, what you have in your rate guide. And there's other things other than money that determine value. It can be a strategy, right? So your rates, obviously you want to charge what you're worth, but also your rates are a reflection of a strategy, right? A strategy that can encompass more than just financial. right? It can encompass building a relationship with a customer, a potential customer, understanding that there might be more volume to the job, right? So in the end, you will get paid financially worthy of what you are worth. And so don't let anybody make you feel bad about rates that you charged or feel like you're anything less than. Because the intent is, yes, we all want to raise each other up and we all want to charge great rates and we don't want to undercut. I think that's where most of the making other people feel bad comes from, is that those people will say, well, you're undercutting our business. So in reality, I like to say, all right, I like to think that the majority of humans are good, and that they're not there to undercut. There are people out there undercutting. There just are. But I think whether or not you chastise them or not, it's going to happen. So why waste your energy on doing that, right?
Yeah,
Or even worrying about that.
And sometimes a non-booking is actually the win.
Yeah.
Maybe not booking something that was going to be a rate that was below what you are worth is actually the win.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And
It could have been a client from hell that you
exactly.
never knew.
You don't have a booking to post, but that's a win by saying, no, I stood firm to my rates and
Absolutely.
I stood firm to my worth.
Yeah.
You're not getting the full picture sometimes. And so that's really kind of going back to, don't allow this comparison to be the thief of your own joy and the thief of your own worth in your voiceover business, because there's so much more to the story.
Yeah. Until you have all the facts and you have all the details and all the specs.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not even worth your time to compare. Really, just be happy for people when they book.
Be happy, just celebrate.
Be happy, celebrate, lift each other up, and understand. Mind your own business, and understand that nobody should make you feel bad, directly or indirectly, about your business, about what you're charging, about your financial, what you're worth. If somebody asks you how much did you make. It's absolutely your business. It's not theirs. And nobody should make you feel less than or not worthy. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great conversation. All right. Well, I'm going to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can network and not compare. Not compare. Find out more at ipdtl.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.